Welcome everybody to Prospects Cup 2023. The technical difficulties are my fault, not Hudson's. Hopefully in the next 45 minutes or so, I can help you through a whole bunch of stuff in regards to the selection camp and what it's going to end up meaning for you. We're really excited to have everybody on board and looking forward to meeting you all at the different camps as they pop up in the next little while. So one of the first things, I guess, to look at when you end up going to a camp is to start with the end in mind. So with each one of you as a player, when you end up going to this camp, what is it that you want to end up with? And I think the key word, as I put in the middle there, is success. And when you come to the camps, you're not going to know many people on your team. Obviously, each camp has 8 teams. Probably close to 20 players on each team, 2 or 3 goalies, and probably 8 defensemen and 12 forwards or 11. It just depends on how many have signed up. So you're going to walk into a dressing room that there's not a lot of people that you're going to know. You might know a few from playing against them. And why I ended up putting this slide up and what's on there is coming together as a beginning, keeping together as progress, working together as success. I think it's really important for you to recognize and understand that the more that you can help your teammates at this camp and get to know them and all of that, and I'll give you some tips and tricks as we end up going, but the better off your camp is going to end up running for you. If you go in and you're quiet and you don't talk to anybody and all of those sorts of things, and you're really, I guess, a little bit intimidated or timid about it, you're probably not going to do nearly as well as if you get in there right away. Try and meet some people and get yourself comfortable with what's going on at the camp. So the groundwork, and if you take a look at the pyramid on the right-hand side, when we select our teams, whether it's Prospects, Alberta Cup, or our Team Alberta team, one of the things that we really focus on is that pyramid that's on the right-hand side and all of the things that end up going in it. You could be the best player at the camp and score a whole bunch of goals or make 1 million saves as a goalie. But if you're not a good person, if you don't play with character, your chances of making one of the 2 teams probably isn't going to be very good. And I say that sincerely. We, over the years, and we will find out in your 4 or 5 skates that you're going to have, we'll find out lots about you. And if you can't sort of buy into what the pyramid's talking about, because that's our values from the Hockey Alberta standpoint, your chances of making the team are really diminished from that. You take a look at the different words that are in there. It means like being respectful, being genuine, working really hard, executing, from the character side of it, being consistent, being passionate, and being prepared. All of those things to us are what makes an Alberta-built athlete. And the exciting part for us is that's what we're trying to do. You fellas will have a couple of years to try out both for the Prospects as well as the Cup and hopefully Team Alberta down the road. So this is the first step. And why it's so important is that we're trying to teach you how to come together as a team in a very short time period. We're trying to teach the coaches that as well. What are the different things that are required of it, whether it's leaving your shoes outside the dressing room when you walk in, whether it's keeping the room clean, whether it's saying please and thank you, all of those sorts of things. So we're really trying to groom you to be an Alberta-built athlete and eventually to play for Team Alberta. On the left-hand side, you can see there's 20 skaters there, and they all point to the middle. Everybody should have the same focus. And go back to the first slide about success. Also the point of you want to do the best that you possibly can. You want to help those around you, and you hopefully they're going to end up helping you. And as it says at the bottom, it takes 12 hands to score a goal. I think that's important too, to remember that when you go to this camp, the more that you can play like a teammate, obviously, the better off you're going to be as it ends up going. So you're all here for a purpose, for a reason. You want to make the team. That's your focus. You want to be successful. So we're going to try and help you both here and then when you're at the camp to end up achieving that goal. Another key thing with short-term competition and tryout camps and everything else is that is performance on demand. And what that means is from the first time you step on the ice to the last, you have to perform to the best of your abilities. If you slack off at different times, if you cheat on drills, if you take really long shifts, if you do things like that, your performance isn't going to be up to snuff. It's not going to be as good as others. And at the end of the day, you're going to hurt your chances. And as the slide there says, there's no such thing as a shift off. It's what champions are made of. And I think that's really important for you to remember, that the whole thing about performance on demand, when you come to that camp, we want you to perform to the best of your abilities. Again, thinking about the pyramid as well. So personal gardening, excuse me. And what I sort of mean by this is that prior to the camp, and you guys still have a bit of time, I think it's really important for you to start to think about, you're in playoffs now, most of you or all of you, probably be playing for another 2-3 weeks at least, that everything that you do between now and that camp is going to end up mattering to you. The physical things that you do, are you still going to stay in shape even if you're out of provincials and that? Are you going to keep working to make sure that when you go to the camp you are fit? Are you going to continue to work on your technical skills? Maybe you've got something set up in the garage just to shoot and stick handle and things like that, or you're going to the ODR as much as you can, as long as weather permits. But all of those things really, really count. The mental side of it, we're going to get into in a couple weeks. I'm doing another session on that. And then also with the life skills, it fits in, but just how you take care of your body, the things that you do to end up making sure that you're prepared and ready to go, especially as we get closer to that camp. Things that matter and things that you can control are what you should end up focusing on. So you've got a month to start to think about that as well. What really matters to you? What are the things that you can control? So I'll give you an example is you can eat properly and get lots of rest and drink lots of water. That would be something you can control. And at the end of the day, that's something that really matters, especially going into a camp like this. And those are the types of things that you need to end up focusing on. So some pre-camp thoughts. These are things that even before the camp starts that you could be starting to think about. Nutrition, hydration, and rest. I just ended up talking about it. Critical, and especially at your guys' age, you're in your growth spurts, the majority of you, so you're going to end up needing these at the best of times, but trying to get ready for a camp like this is even more important. No distractions. And it's a little bit out yet, but it's something that you should probably write down if you're taking any notes, is make sure that, and the big one is school here, that when you go for that weekend, that you've got all your schoolwork done. Go talk to your teachers prior to the camp and ask them maybe a week in advance the different things that you need to end up getting done for the Monday following and maybe the Friday, because we start obviously on the Friday with the camp, and get that work done so that you don't have any stress on you going into the camp. And I'll share the same thing once the teams are formed, and we'll probably be doing another Zoom session. I would say the same thing to the players that end up making the teams, is no distractions. It's really important. So school's the biggest one, relationships are another one, social media, et cetera, et cetera. All of those sorts of things, you should go to the camp and approach it with no distractions at all. The only thing that should be on your mind is performance on demand and doing the best that you can. You want to double check equipment. It's really sad to see sometimes where kids come from way out, and I use the example of the kids that are going to be coming to Edmonton for their camp, and they're from up north, and they forget their skates, or they don't have a second pair of blades, or they haven't got their skates sharpened before they leave, or they forget their sticks at home. And we've had this in the past, and it's really troublesome both for you as well as the parents, because they want you to do well. So what I've always sort of said to my players is before you leave, pack your bag as if you were getting dressed in the dressing room, and really focus on it and make sure that the things that you're going to be putting on are in that equipment bag. Set some goals for the camp, whatever that might be. Hey, I want to go and I just want to enjoy myself. I want to see how good I am, if I'm good enough to make a team, or where I stack up with the others. I want to try and get 2 shots every period. I want to try and score a goal every period. I want to back check like crazy and steal lots of pucks. I want to be in battles. As a goalie, I want to make all the saves that I can. I want to talk to my defensemen. But if you start to set some camp goals, it gives you something to focus on when you're there instead of just playing the game. This is another critical one, is make arrangements to get to camp and make sure that you arrive on time. Again, at different times in different years, we've had players that show up late, and it throws them way off. And often even from the parent side, it throws them off too. And sometimes it can't be helped, weather and things of that nature. Maybe your parents had to work late and they didn't get away soon enough, but really try to make sure that your arrangements are made and that you get to camp on time. And then some personal choices to eliminate stressors, and that kind of goes back to those distractions, but really come into camp not with too many expectations other than to do your best, work as hard as you possibly can, enjoy the experience, meet lots of new friends, and let the chips fall where they are. If you work hard and the coaches at the camp see it and you've got good skill, your chances of making a team are really good. Approach the camp with a positive demeanor. So again, just enjoy it and try and learn from it as it ends up going. So that's a few simple things leading into the camp that you should be thinking of. Probably the most important ones are the nutrition, hydration, and rest, your equipment. Setting a goal would probably be big ones in my books to be thinking of going into it. So now we're at the camp. We've arrived, we've registered. You're going to get, depending on what position you play, but you'll get a small area game session and you'll get 3 games. If you're a goalie, you get the extra session as a goalie session. That's really important as well for you to make sure that you're prepared for. And so you're going to be on the ice 4 different times, showcasing yourself. So what are things that you can do pre-ice, going on to the ice that will help you out? Well, the first one is set a routine, both with yourself and with the team. And we will have at the camps, trainers will be there. They'll probably show you the first time what needs to be done for a proper warm-up and a proper cool down. And then it'll be up to the team after that, prior to each ice session, to go out as a group and do your warm-up, and after the session to go out and do a cool down. And I think it's important at this time, and it'll be on one of the other slides, to show some leadership with that. Sometimes kids decide they don't want to do a warm-up or they don't want to do a cool down. Well, I'll tell you one thing, that everything that you do at that camp is going to be noticed. So if you're booking out and not doing those sorts of things, the coaches will see it and go back to that first slide that I had with a pyramid on it. You're not a good person, somebody that can't be counted on because you're not doing what the team should be doing in general. Once the team routine is done, if you have things that you want to do as well to help you get warmed up, please do it. Lots of players like to bring their earbuds after and they put music on and they'll keep stretching or warming up or playing a sewer ball or something like that. But again, make sure that you set a routine so that you're comfortable when you end up starting out. Make sure you arrive on time. The staffs will end up having posted in the arena the practice itself, what it looks like, so you get a chance, and they might even be in the dressing rooms, the practice, so you'll get a chance to look at all the different drills that you're going to be doing. They should have out there the evaluation criteria, so the things that they're looking for, and the 3 biggest things, and they're pretty general. What I'm talking about tonight, Bobby Fox, our head scout, will be doing a session with you on that stuff here in a couple weeks. But the skill side of it is very important. The hockey sense, how you think the game, is really important. And the intangibles, the little things like showing leadership, like doing things to make plays, blocking shots, back checking hard, passing to teammates who are open, taking short shifts, all of those things would be counted on as some of the intangibles. And that would be in the evaluation criteria and also in the selection process. And basically, all of the players that are at the camp, the coaches will end up selecting 2 teams of 20 players. So there'll be 12 forwards, 6 defensemen, and 2 goalies that will go with each team. They'll have their criteria that they're looking for with the team that they're going to try and choose. They will be sharing that at the camp. And then they'll go into a draft that'll happen near the end and then at the end of the camp to select their teams. So you have lots of chances to show off your skills and your hockey sense and your intangibles. Again, just take a look at what the evaluation criteria are, so you have a good example going in of what you need to end up doing to perform to end up having a good chance to make the team. So I already talked about the warm up and cool down properly, both for your body and your mind. Getting to know your teammates is really important. I sort of said that at the start, but I reinforce it again now. To sit in a dressing room or walk in, and I'll be at all the camps at different times. So I walk into dressing rooms, I'll go on the bench a little bit. I'm kind of a nosy guy when it comes to that, trying to help the coaches and the mentors that are there, but also just to see you guys as well and see some of the things that you're doing and if there's anything I can learn from you. And the biggest one to me at these camps is you got to be comfortable. You got to get out of your comfort zone, and that requires you getting to know your teammates. Playing with two guys on your line or a defense partner that you don't even know their name throughout the whole game probably isn't a good idea. So really make sure you stretch yourself a little bit to get to know your teammates. We have set up some team building for the camps, but they the sessions are pretty tight and the coaches are very busy. So they're going to try and do their best to do a little bit with you. But if they don't, some of it again is back up onto you as players. Watch your comments and your language, both on the bench, in the dressing room, and on the ice. As I say, there's lots of eyes and ears listening and watching. And should you start to end up being derogatory towards others and making some bad comments, and that again, go back to our pyramid, your chances of being successful and making the team probably wouldn't be nearly as good. And this is the big one, because you are going to be skating 4 times in 2.5 days, is plan your proper hydration, nutrition, and rest between each session, especially on the Saturday when you're going to be going twice. And I believe the goalies that day might go 3 times. You need to make sure that you're eating proper food between each one. Fries and gravy and a hamburger aren't real good nutrition for a camp, a tryout camp. If you're not sure of the nutrition side of it, go onto the internet and take a look. They'll give you lots of really good ideas, but any sorts of pastas and that are great for it. Some of the vegetables are really good because they're high in carbohydrates, and that's what you need for the energy side of it, and some form of meat, obviously, to replenish those supplies as well. But really plan those rest times well. A lot of you will be coming from out of town, so you might even have a chance between sessions to go back to the hotel, maybe have something to eat, maybe even lay down for a bit of a rest would be a great idea. And I can't stress enough how important hydration is. Science tells us that for every pound of sweat that we sweat out in a practice or a game, we lose up to 10% of our energy efficiency. So if you sweat a lot as a player, and let's say you lose 3 pounds in a game and you don't drink water before, during, and after, you've lost 30% of your energy level already without even trying anything. So make sure you drink lots of water. Really important. Some of the drinks you can buy are good for afterwards because they've got the electrolytes in it that your body needs as well to replenish those fluids. On ice, the important part here now, the one that we're all wanting to get to. The first one is just be focused. When you go out there, you're going to be out there for 60 minutes. Be focused the whole time. And focus means just paying attention to everything, what the coaches are talking about, what they're asking for, what they want in the small area game or the goalie session. And then in the games, the 5-on-5 games on the bench, they're going to be doing some coaching with you. Listen to them and end up being focused with what they ask you to do. Control the things that you can. So you can't control a teammate not making a pass to you, but you can talk to them after and say, hey, I was open. Do I need to yell a bit louder or whatever to make it happen? Control what you can means drinking enough water between each shift. Control what you can means having that routine set. All of those sorts of things on ice. Control what you can and don't worry about those things that you can't control. Have your own water bottle and hydrate regularly. And I think, you know, with COVID coming out, when I go to rinks now and watch kids, the majority of them all have their own water bottle. I think it's critical that you have that, make sure it's labeled, and then hydrate regularly. Know the type of player you are and don't try to be someone else. And the next session, when I do the mental performance, I'll get a lot more into this. But don't go there if you're not really a goal scorer and think the only way you're going to make that team is by trying to score goals. Because at the end of the day, you're going to try too hard to score goals. You're going to forget about what good hockey players are, is they're 200 feet. They play on both sides of the puck and they do all the little things. So you really have to be self-aware of the type of player that you are and just play your game. Do the best that you can with what you got. And hopefully between that and the selection criteria that the staff's provided you, that something's going to fit and you're going to have a great chance to make the team. Feed the good wolf. The good wolf is somebody who, when things don't go well, balances you out. It's a positive self-talk. Instead of saying how bad you are and how much you suck and whatever else, it talks about the good things, always trying to remain positive. And I think in a camp like this, it's really important because the coaches don't know you, the other players don't know you. If you start to get down on yourself, you're going to be feeding the bad wolf, and you're probably not going to enjoy the experience or do nearly as well as you could. So really, and again, I'll talk more about this in the mental performance side, but it is something that has to be drilled into kids because there's lots of you that are hard on yourself, and you can't be at something like this or you won't be successful. A big one, in my opinion, is not cheating on a drill. And that could mean, the coach tells you to skate to the far blue line and touch the blue line and come back and you stop a foot short of it. Or they ask you for 30-second shifts and you're taking 45 to a minute shifts. Those are sorts of things that are cheating on drills. And again, we try to, through the mentorship program, talk to the coaches that those are the little things that they're looking for. Because at the end of the day, in short term, we don't have a lot of time to really change a bunch of habits. So you need to end up really thinking that you've got to have good habits when you come to this camp. And again, be focused and do what you're asked to do. And the cheating on the drills is a huge one. Ask questions when you don't understand. There's never a bad question. And if you don't ask and it's suddenly your turn in line, or, for the small area game, and you don't know what the drill is or what to do, right away, you're setting yourself up for failure. So make sure that you ask. There's coaches that are going to be on the ice with you, and no different during the game. If there's something that you don't understand, make sure you ask one of the coaches that's on the bench. That's part of their job, is to help you to play the best that you possibly can. Be in every battle. I think this one's important. Anytime there's a loose puck, get into the battle with it. Anytime the other team has the puck, get into a battle with them and try and take it away. Anytime that your team has the puck, be in a battle and try and get in a good spot to make a pass, receive a pass, shoot a puck, make a big save, whatever it ends up being. But just be in every battle. And again, that goes back to that grit piece in our pyramid about being a gritty player. Don't fear different positions and line mates. We found typically on every team that out of the 12 forwards, 9 are centermen. So you're going to get a chance to play center, but you're also going to get a chance to play left wing and maybe right wing as well. And the same thing with a D. We might have 5 left-handed D on one team and 5 righties on another team. And it's sort of the way that it is when we distribute the players. We do it based on where you're from, where you played that year, so we don't necessarily look at which way you shoot. So just be prepared. That's a big one. That if you have to play different positions, don't pout about it. Go back to feed the good wolf and just do the best that you possibly can. And if you're not sure, if you've never played wing before and you're struggling a little bit getting pucks out of your end on breakouts, maybe you can ask the coaches on the bench, hey, what should I do? Is there a little trick? Maybe even ask your line mates, because they may have had to go through the same thing as well at the camp. Be a team player, I think, is critical. And sharing the ice at these camps is the biggest one that I can tell you about being a team player. If I follow somebody as we roll through the lines in this camp, and they're always the last one off the ice, I'm getting less ice time than they are. And at the end of the day, that's a cancer. I get upset. I'm frustrated by it. I might tell somebody else in the team that I know, and suddenly none of us are good team players because we're not doing what we need to do, and that's having fun, enjoying the game, and playing as hard as we can. try to be better every session. And we say that with all of our teams, especially the Team Alberta teams, when we go to events, is where we start, we want to end up being better at the end of the tournament, no matter where we end up finishing. And I think that's the same for you, is where you start, you're probably going to be nervous. You don't know a lot of players. It's a small area game session. There's lots of things going on. But by the second and third games, you should be playing the best that you can. And again, we as evaluators will see that. And as I put there, cream rises to the top. So you want to continue to work hard and battle every game, every shift, because we're watching right till the very end. The draft doesn't take place till it's all over. And to me, one that I've shared with a lot of kids over time is tell the coaches that you need to be on that team. Like your play, how hard you work, your hockey sense, your intangibles, all of those things, you deserve to be on the team. So make it really difficult for them not to take you onto the team. So there's a whole bunch of different ideas there for you on ice that hopefully will help you to give you a little bit of direction anyways when you go to the camp. I think you know a little bit about what you're getting into going there. Not going to know a lot of kids. It's going to be strange for you to start with. There's a small area game to start with, lots going on, all of those sorts of things. So we're trying to arm you with that fact going in so it doesn't blindside you when you end up getting to the camp. So we've covered a little bit about before the camp even starts, about some pre-ice stuff and some on-ice stuff. And the other one that I didn't put in here, but it was in another slide, is make sure that you cool down after the games. I think that's really important too. Just a little bit of a stretch, some ballistic stuff, maybe a bit of a run. Probably some of your teams or most of them should be doing this already, so you're accustomed to it, but you're not going to have somebody holding your hand. A lot of that's going to end up being up to you. So what it takes, I think, is really important. You see that picture there, there's 8 teams with 20 players on it. You're going to be on one of those popsicle sticks, numbered, black, gray, whatever color it is, and a number. And as we go through the camp, that's sort of how we end up working. So what does it take? Well, it takes everything that I've just talked about in order to have a good opportunity to play for one of the 2 teams of the zone that you're going to. I think, again, I can't give you much more when it comes to that, and especially the on-ice portion. But for you just to recognize and realize there's a whole lot of kids that want to end up making that team. When you look at it, there's 12 forwards and there's 8 teams, so there's 96 players and we're taking 24. So for every 4 popsicle sticks, one of them is going to end up making one of those teams. So it's up to you in a lot of cases as to, are you going to be one of those guys that's going to end up making it? So what are the things? Determination is certainly one. And I think you need to be determined when you end up approaching the camp itself. Leadership, talked a little bit about that, but even things like picking pucks up after that small area game, pushing nets, giving the coach a high five or all of them when you leave the ice, tapping pads, going to the goalie if there's a goal scored on them, like all of those little things show leadership and are really important. And it's one that we find that we really try to end up teaching kids as they go through our programs is how to be leaders. I could say over the last 8 or 10 years with the Team Canada teams, when you take a look under 17, under 18 and World Juniors, there's always a huge number of Alberta kids that are wearing letters. And there's a reason why, is because it starts here. It also starts with your club teams. There's no question about it. But we certainly try to provide that for you as well. Emotional control is a big one. Things not going your way and banging your stick, bad posture, bad body language, some of the words that you might end up using, all of those sorts of things we're going to end up noticing. So feed the good wolf and control your emotions throughout the whole camp. Again, if you can't, your chances of making one of the teams probably drops a whole lot because of that. And that means not taking bad penalties either. Good penalties are one thing, but bad ones certainly aren't something that coaches are looking for in this event. Being a good teammate, again, helping out, patting on the pads, talking to each other, getting to know their names, all of those sorts of things. I always like to share it where if I'm playing on a forward line and I can make my 2 line mates look better, they're going to make me look better just because all three of us are humming along and we're supporting one another. So at the end of the day, being a good teammate, that's really critical. And again, especially when you're only going to be playing with these guys for 4 games. Trust is huge, both with the people that you have on the ice instructing. So knowing that they're trying to get the most and best out of you, trusting your teammates, trusting the coaches that are on the bench. All of that stuff is really important in having a strong team and being a good teammate. Being responsible. And again, I just go back to even the one about the equipment. You know, you pack your bag, you think about how you dress, you put everything in. That's being responsible. That's showing responsibility. And I shared a few other things too, like the performance enhancers, nutrition, hydration, rest and recovery, how important they are. Well, that's your responsibility. That's not your parents, and that's not the coaches at the camp. That's up to you. So you're taking ownership for yourself and your body over the course of the weekend. Self-confidence, feed the good wolf. It's so important that we go in confident and that we remain confident throughout the whole camp. If we're a scorer and we're not scoring because there's a whole lot of really good players there, work your butt off to play other parts of the game to show that you can play other stuff too. And maybe you're going to get a goal, a lucky one or a bounce somewhere along the line, and suddenly things are going to change for you. But you need to have that self-confidence and try and maintain it throughout the whole weekend. So to sort of finish off, good luck to all of you. There's a whole lot of kids. Hockey Alberta every year is so excited to run these camps. We love to meet you. We love to get a new group of coaches in every year that we can help mold them. They go back to their club teams and are better coaches. The players that take part go back and they become better players. And that's sort of what we want, is that Alberta built model that everybody's helping everybody else. We're the only province in Canada that has mentorship. And I think that's really important and something for you to recognize, even though as players, you probably wouldn't see a lot of it. You're more going to be with the coaches, but they're so important to helping their coaches and guiding them throughout the whole experience. I think it's really important. And as you can see, the guy hanging by a thread on the cliff there, some people succeed because they are destined to, but most people succeed because they're determined to. And if you go back a slide or two, when I put the first word up there is determination, I think that's what you need to come to the camp with, is be determined to do your best, to be confident throughout the whole thing, to be a good teammate, to be positive, and leave it all on the ice. And hopefully it's going to work out for you and you're going to make one of the teams and end up representing your zone at the Prospects Cup this year. Hudson, I noticed there's a bunch of questions. Do you want to open them up and ask me, or should I do it, or what's best?
Yeah, I can get through them, Barry. There's been a number that we've tried to answer as we went here, but there are a few that I think are better coming from you. A few just about pre-game meals. What's a good thing to eat? Is Subway a good thing? Do you have any suggestions? I think it's fairly obvious that you want to eat something that's, has carbohydrates in it and is healthy for the it's not candy per se, but is there a meal that you recommend? Should people be trying meals they've never tried before for this? Should they be sticking to what they like and what they know works? What are your thoughts on pregame meals?
Well, you hit the nail on the head to start with. We just came back from PEI, and the players, the staff, my group, ended up eating some things out east that we're not used to, seafood. The players ate a really basic meal, rice, pasta, chicken. They did have a little bit of fish a couple days, potatoes. All of those things are high in carbohydrates and starch, so they give you energy. They had lots of vegetables, they ate lots of salads. So those are things that we're used to. Our stomach isn't going to upheave on us because we've eaten something that we're not used to. You also touched on the fact of, sometimes you just get it in your head that you're going to have a Subway and it's going to have lettuce and tomatoes in it, and it's going to have some cheese and some meat. And again, if that works for you, I can't say that that's wrong. Again, because you're getting the bread, which again has got carbohydrate in it, you're getting the vegetables, those sorts of things. I would stay away for pregame meals on things like milk. Milk will end up giving you mucus buildup, and it's proven that it not harms the airway, but it makes it harder to breathe. But certainly after a game, chocolate milk is probably the cheapest and best form of recovery drink that you can end up getting. But before games, I wouldn't go that far. I'd stay away from red meat because it takes a bit of time to digest before a game. And then fruit is another one that's really good. And some are better than others. Again, look at ones that digest easier than other ones. The same thing with the vegetables. The softer ones will end up, you'll be able to digest them quicker than something, say, like celery or carrots, which are they have more substance to them. So hopefully that ends up helping answer that question.
Thanks, Barry. Sorry, I was just answering a few other questions.
Okay.
Another one here, are there any specific exercises that you recommend or any training that is good to do prior to the camp or even after the camp as well?
Yeah, there's lots of things that you could do that if you go online, but honestly, where you're at this part of the season, you're just trying to maintain your fitness level and strength. So things, and again, I'm not sure what my grandson, my oldest, is 12, and I know he does some of the things, but whether it's doing a little running on a treadmill or riding a bike are good things because it's the cardio side of it. But if you're going to do it, one of the things that hockey has in it is it's both it's anaerobic and it's aerobic activity or energy systems. And what that means is if you ride a bike for 30 minutes you maintain a constant speed, that would be good for aerobics, just keeping basic conditioning. But because we know that hockey is very much anaerobic at different times, whether it's a 3-second burst or a 30-second shift, when you're riding a bike or doing some running, it's often good to end up in between, and this is really old school, but if you run, walk, sprint, it would be a way to describe it. It's called fartlek training, but that way you're engaging all three energy systems by doing something like that. So anything that gets you moving, that's got some anaerobic activity in it is really good. There's a lot of different programs out there now too that, and again, I'm just trying to think of the name. That's I think it's Zuba or Kangoo, where you can go and you bounce around in boots with springs on them. Things like that are really good. Things that you can do to maintain your strength. Actually, the very simplest one that you can have is you buy a really good rubber band, a stretch band that's got some good resistance to it, and you can work your whole upper body just with one band, and it's not very costly to end up doing it just to maintain that strength. The other one that's really important, I think, is just the suppleness piece, is the stretching. And honestly, I watched our guys at Canada Winter Games, and there's a lot of them. I sort of suggested to them that they probably should start looking at doing some yoga because they're not very supple. They're not flexible. And what happens as you get older, your muscles tighten and your stride shortens and all of those sorts of things because you're not stretching enough. You can't touch your toes. You can't do squats. You can't do different things just because we're not used to doing them. So those would be some of the things that I would say is do something that's got some energy system stuff in it. Do something that you can do some lifting, and the band is the easiest one. You can do a whole bunch of different exercises with your upper body with it. And then also the suppleness piece, some stretching would be really good. And what we found the last 5 years or so through scientific research is that ballistic workouts are pretty good too with the stretching. So you'll notice with most warm-ups now with teams and even cool downs, it's more ballistic. So there's a lot more movement to your stretching. It's not just static where you're standing and touching your toes for 30 seconds and things of that nature where you're holding it. The ballistic stuff really works as well. And it also gives you range of motion as a player.
A couple other questions here, Barry, just regarding, proper equipment. Can I have cage hang? Can I, do I need to wear a mouth guard? All that sort of thing. what are your thoughts on that specific to just, I think it goes back to what you already talked about, make sure that you can control the things you can. And, is it worth having cage hang to look cool, and potentially risk getting a high stick and ending your tryouts?
I would ask the question, why would you want cage hang? It's not safe. So it's almost like me going out to the first skate and I'm wearing one blue sock and one white one. And I would look at it from an evaluator standpoint is look at me, I'm different than everybody else. And everything I've shared tonight talks about being a good teammate and doing the right things. So look at our pyramid. And when you look at it, being a good person and being a character person, if you're letting your cage hang down, your chin strap's low, you don't have your neck guard zipped up, those to us aren't what we're looking for in players. So I would say definitely not. Dress appropriately. Even when you come to the camp, I didn't address that. I guess I should have. You don't need to wear a suit and tie, but come dressed appropriately would be my way of saying it. So be responsible with how you come to the camp as well. You come in with the cap on backwards and whatever else going on. And again, it's just not a good first impression. That's a great question. I'm glad somebody asked it.
Another question that was asked, Barry, is will academics be considered for the selection process? So are we checking grades, or what can you say about just the whole commitment to the program and being a reliable teammate as it relates to academics?
Yeah, no, we don't phone a school to ask about academics. We wouldn't have enough time to do that, nor is that really our place. But we did, like even with Canada Winter Games, players were bringing homework down to do, and we gave them time to end up doing it, which to me was a great sign of responsibility and ownership with the players. Like I said tonight, try and get your homework done before the camp starts or before the event starts, so you don't have to do any of it. But if you do and you're making time to be able to do it, good on you. We certainly wouldn't hold it against you. And the other one is, like, a lot of you are going to want to play higher levels of hockey going forward. And one of the things that you need to realize is there's very few players ever make it. And what I mean by make it is A, getting drafted into the Western Hockey League, B, even playing in the Western League if you're drafted. C, lots of kids end up going to the Alberta Junior League. And if you go there, you're more looking for a scholarship opportunity, which means you've got to have good grades. So keeping up in school is another one of those character pieces I think is really important. And probably because I taught for close to 40 years that you hit me between the eyes with that one, that I think education is very important. And if you get injured, even though you could be the best player since McDavid, and you suddenly suffer an injury that you can't play anymore, if you don't have an education, what do you have? So it's really important to think of that in your young careers.
Just one more question here, Barry, before we wrap up, just being conscious of time and knowing people have other things to get to tonight. So some questions about rest as well. What does rest mean? Specifically, when should players wake up before the tryouts? What should they do in between sessions, especially on that Saturday when each team plays 2 games? Do you have any tips for, what rest actually looks like on tryout weekend?
Yeah, well, leading up to it, it's no different than the eating part. In the old days, I used to run, and guys that run marathons and that, they would carb binge prior to the race day. So to me, the more that you can get down 3 or 4 days before the event, your body's going to store it. It's not going to hurt you at all. It'll end up helping you over the course of the weekend. So that takes care of the nutrition. I talked about hydration, how much water you should be drinking. The rest part of it's an interesting one with you guys. And again, where you're at as adolescents and in growth spurts, you're probably needing 10 hours of rest a night at least. So making sure that you're getting your proper nightly rest leading up to the camp is super important. If you're driving down from somewhere that's far away or up, depending on which side of the province you live on, you're probably going to be a little bit tired. We call it jet lag, but even car lag. So making sure that, once you arrive, that you're getting out and flushing out, you're going for a walk and doing some stretching and things like that's important. In the mornings, depending on when you skate, but if, let's say that your skate is at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning, and you get up at 6:45 and you brush your teeth and comb your hair and gulp something down and get to the rink for 7 because we want you there an hour early. You've just woken up. You probably haven't really prepared yourself to be ready for that game. So my suggestion is getting up even 15 or 20 minutes earlier and doing something that's physical as well, just to wake up your body before you get there. In between games, getting something to eat right away after the game is super important. Even let's say that it's a banana and some peanut butter, let's say chocolate milk and some water, and then you go for an actual meal, and your next game is 3 hours or 4 hours away. If you have a place that you can go lay down for a bit, that's important. Whether you sleep or not, I think is a little bit up to you. As you get older, and the guys that play junior and pro and that, they're used to having afternoon naps and rest. If you're going to do that, anything more, and again, the sleep studies show anything more than 15 to 30 minutes is way too much. You get into a deep REM sleep, and it's worse for you rather than better. So sleep like a wolf, and one eye open, one eye closed. Take a short 15 to 30 minute nap, and then get yourself ready to go again. We do that again with our Team Alberta guys. Most of the events we're only playing 1 game a day, but we'll still give them time to end up resting. When we run our summer camps, every day we have what's called mandatory rest, where they're given an hour to go back and relax and sleep. And the majority of the guys do, and most of them listen to the fact of not sleeping the whole hour, but getting a good half hour in, and they wake up really refreshed and ready to go.
Awesome. Thank you, Barry. There's a lot more questions in the chat, but most of them are just logistics related. So by all means, everybody, please do. If you have questions about, the number of teams or, when are the practices, all that sort of stuff, talk to your parents. We have sent them the regional camp schedule where it has the number of teams, how many games you're playing, all that sort of thing. There'll be plenty of other opportunities to ask questions as well in the remaining 2 regional camp preparation webinars. And so at this point, we will wrap up for tonight. One piece of housekeeping, we will not be having a session next week on the 13th as originally planned. We have instead had to move that session until March 27th. So you will have next Monday off, and then we will have another session on the 20th and then on the 27th as well. And that will be the 3 dates. I'll send out an email to everybody's parents tonight as well, or tomorrow morning, sorry, just to confirm that that schedule change. But yeah, that's it for tonight, everybody. And again, thank you for your time. And thank you to Barry as well for jumping on to help discuss how to get ready for the regional camp. We'll have plenty of other chances to chat. So with that, have a great night, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.